Hey, what's up guys? In this video I'm gonna show you different ways on how to spawn enemies or AIs in general. So the first method is also the easiest one, and that is just simply take your blueprint of an AI and just drag it into the level, and then when you hit play it's gonna be exactly where you left it and it's gonna do whatever code you've put in. Now the advantage of this is how simple it is, and because it's set in the level already, it means it's always gonna be there, so it's good for like an important NPC for example. But what if you want to continuously spawn enemies? Well, for that we can create a simple spawner. So I'm gonna go into the content drawer, right click, and I'm gonna create a blueprint class, and I'm gonna make it an actor, and I'm gonna call it BP spawner. Then we can open it. In here you don't have to add any component, but I personally like to add a static mesh, and I'm gonna set it to something like the material sphere, just so that it's easier to see in the level once you are placing it. Keep in mind that you have to also go into the collision, disable generate overlap events, can character step up on set to no, and then instead of block all dynamic, I'm gonna set it to no collision. That way it's not gonna overlap or mess around with anything, and it's just simply gonna be there for the visibility. Then I'm gonna go into the event graph, and we only need begin place. I'm gonna delete these two events. I'm gonna drag from the event begin play and search for spawn actor from class. In here we can slot in whatever class we want, but I'm gonna set it to, let's say, the BP zombie, but you can obviously set it to whatever you want. Then we have the spawn transfer. I'm gonna right click it and click on split strap in. This way we have the location, rotation and skills separately. So I'm just gonna right click and search for get actor location. And I'm gonna plug that into the spawn transform location. That way we are getting a location of the spawner. We can compile this, save this, and then we can go back and drag it into our level somewhere a little bit above the ground, but not quite in the air, for example. And then when we go into play, as you can see, it spawns the enemy, but the enemy is not moving whatsoever. And the reason why it's not moving is actually because it's not possessed by a controller. So if we go into that blueprint of your AI, which for me is the BP zombie, we go into the class default, and then scroll all the way down here into the pawn, or you can look it up if you want to in the search. You have the auto possess AI, and as you can see, it's set by default into placed in word. This basically means that the AI is only gonna get controlled by a controller if it's placed in the word and not spawned. So we can just click on it and we can either set it to spawn, but then any AI that we placed in the level is not gonna get possessed. So we have the place in word or spawned, so I'm gonna select that, and that way when we compile this and go back into the level, we can see it's running and doing what we wanted it to do. And if I go and I just drag in another zombie right here, so we have one that is spawned in the world and one that is placed. They are both doing the same thing that we want them to do. So the last way we are gonna spawn enemies is basically the same as the spawner, but we can spawn them at a random location within a range, and you can apply this to your player, for example, and have enemies spawn around them in something like Vampire Survivors style. So I'm gonna go back into the spawner and I'm gonna use this, but you can use something else if you want to. So we are gonna right click, search for a reachable. The node is called to get random reachable point in radius. We can break the link from the get actor location, and instead we are gonna use the random location that we get from the random reachable. Then into origin, I'm gonna plug the get actor location because we want this to be the basically central point of that radius. Then we can set the radius to whatever we want. So I'm gonna set it to, let's say, 500, and I'm gonna compile this. What we can just quickly do is we can select these three nodes, right click it, then we can collapse it to function, and we can call this function, let's say, spawn. And then if we open it, it's gonna look like this. It's basically the exact same three nodes, but collapsed into a function, and that way we can delete the spawn here. And from event begin play, I'm gonna drag out and search for set timer. And I'm gonna set it by function name, and I'm gonna fill in the spawn function that we created just now. And I'm gonna set the timer to, let's say, 2 seconds, and I'm gonna set the looping to true. Then we can go and compile, save this, and go into the level. And as you can see, after 2 seconds, it's gonna spawn an enemy, and it's gonna be immediately active. And then after 2 seconds, it's gonna keep spawning these enemies. But you can see they are getting spawned in different places within that radius. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. It helps out a lot. You can check my Patreon down in the description if you want to and you want to support me. But thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye!